the Regional Council's passenger transport update. And we've got Andrew Wilson here, the passenger transport man. What's your title?
I'm not sure myself, but
Okay.
Public transport manager.
Yeah. So Andrew, the floor is yours. It's on. There's no actual. Well, there is an attachment. Sorry, a link in there. Yeah. So Andrew, off you go.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Andrew Wilson, Regional Council, Public Transport. Obviously. So I've just got a brief update on a handful of things. So just to tune in around where patronage is heading on public transport at the moment, and just 3 key activities that are underway. So public transport-wise, we've had some good months recently in terms of patronage numbers. So you can see the figures up there. So the Hamilton line is services wholly within Hamilton, and the other lines are services coming from satellite towns connecting with Hamilton. So the 12 months to date, in terms of first boardings, up 1.2%. We expect that to increase over the coming months as well. February was a strong month, and January's been a consistent trend. So we've been hovering around that 3% mark for Hamilton for the last few months, and we expect that to sort of flow into the 12-month figure moving forward. We've had really strong growth on some of our satellite services coming into the city. So you can see the numbers for Cambridge there. Morrinsville's been strong in the past, just tapering off a little bit now, and Raglan continues to grow really strongly as well. Te Awamutu, just the last 2 months have been down slightly, but the 12-month to date figure is still very strong. Huntly, we've got some reliability issues, and we're implementing a new timetable come 1 April that should sort that out, so we should see that turn around fairly quickly as well. So the next things I just wanted to brief you on are some service improvements and ticketing improvements coming up. So a real major change for us is implementing a new ticketing system later this year. So tentatively August. We're well behind where we want to be on the new ticketing system, but that's due to delays it's a national project and delays that are outside of our control, unfortunately. But we're quite confident around the August date, but there's still some potential for change there. So that's a really significant change for us, and with the new system will come a whole heap of benefits for passengers as well. So online top-up, for example, that doesn't exist. Free transfers across all our services. We currently only have free transfers within Hamilton. Tag on and tag off. That's a really new thing for passengers, and it'll take an adjustment, but it gives us really good data around where people are coming to and going from. That in turn enables us to plan better services as well. And another major feature is fare capping. So being able to cap the maximum amount of fares people would pay on a given day in a given week.
Can you just mention what that cap, how it works out?
Yeah. So we'll have a daily cap, which will be set at 3 times the normal fare. So for an adult, that'll be 3 fares, and then beyond which you won't be charged for any further use, and the same for a child. For a weekly cap, it'll be 10 times the fare, so basically 2 trips a day. If you do any more than that, you're not going to be charged for it, and you can use the system, all services, on an unlimited basis as part of that. So that's part of being more competitive around the cost of parking, for example, so people can have absolute confidence that public transport's not going to cost them more than a certain amount on a day and over the course of a week. So it makes it easier to make choices about which transport option they might choose. Another feature of the new system is being able to auto top up cards, so you can link it to an account and top up cards on behalf of others. So parents and caregivers are particularly excited about that. So no more giving donations to the dairies, I think. Yeah. It's a really significant thing for us to be able to transition over to the new system. So there's about 40,000 active smart cards in use at the moment. We have to swap out all of those cards with new cards over a really a relatively short period of time. So the Hamilton PT Joint Committee's endorsed an approach to doing that. But basically 8 weeks out from the change date, we'll have our websites and the ability to distribute cards, and we'll put a significant amount of effort into getting new cards out as early as we can, and encouraging people to top up those cards and register them with us as well. To further incentivise that, we're going to have a week's free travel ahead of the change day that for people that present with their new card. So a really strong incentive to access a new card early. And that's really important because if we have lots of people lining up on the change date to access a new card on buses, it would potentially be a bit of a disaster in terms of our ability to deliver services reliably. A new service starting 1 April, the Comet route. So this is going to be a direct service between connecting the hospital, the CBD and the base, and it also has a half-hourly service that splits out from the hospital and picks up the Mahaui and Glenview areas. Start-up frequency, 15 minutes between the hospital and the base. So a lot of positive response around this to date as well. So we're pretty confident we should get some good patronage growth out of that. So that kicks off Monday actually, so you might see the orange buses floating around now.
They're all going to be repainted, well, have the graphic added to them, are they?
Yeah, absolutely. So the up on the screen you can see like the Orbiter bus currently has a specific branding, the Comet bus will have a specific branding as well. So look out for the orange bus and its branding and it's very distinctive imagery that goes along with it.
Needed to be more orange. I saw one yesterday.
Yeah, needed to be more orange. Yeah.
Go on, let's keep going, Andrew.
Cool. Okay, and this is the last update as well. So with the implementation of the new ticketing system, we've got plans underway to discontinue this free CBD shuttle service and replace it with a low-cost CBD fare zone. So it'll certainly be a change for existing passengers, but we think overall it's going to give a lot more service options for people. So on the image on the wall, you can see the zone for the low-cost CBD fare zone. So it starts from the hospital in the south and goes as far as Ulster Street in the north, roughly bounded by the river on the towards the east and the lake and town belt towards the west. So travel anywhere in that zone, just $1. We have about 28 bus routes traversing that zone and over 100 bus movements an hour. So if you compare that to the service level on the CBD shuttle, there's a lot more travel options heading in a lot more directions. As
So
part
any
of that
bus at
zone.
all that comes into that, if you catch it inside that, it's $1 anywhere else inside the zone.
Correct, yeah. Yeah. The white bit, correct, yeah, anywhere within that white area. And we think there's a real opportunity to align this with parking policy and strategy moving forward, so you can see people using that in conjunction with perhaps driving to the fringe of the CBD and then catching the low-cost service within that zone. So that this can be amended over time, but we're looking to establish that zone with the implementation of the new ticketing system. So at the moment, that's tentatively August this year. Yeah. And that's all I have in terms of updates.
Right, we've got questions. Mark first, thanks.
Yes, really briefly. That's really cool, Andrew. Thank you. With regards to the Comet, what comms are there around showing this is where it goes? I mean, it's one thing to brand it, the Comet, but how are you burning that into the community, saying it goes from the hospital to the base, hospital base?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got quite an active presence on social media that's been well received so far. Radio ads, imagery, posters going up everywhere. You might see some around the council, DHB, key businesses along the route as well.
Yep.
Yeah, there's quite an extensive comms program. After about a week or two, just to get the service up and running and embedded, we would do extensive mail drops to every household along the route as well.
Yep.
So there's about 18,000 people within 400 metres of the route, so significant potential for patronage there, and we'll keep pushing the comms for a long time. Yeah.
And tons in the hospital as well?
In the hospital as well. Yeah, the hospital, DHB being extremely supportive
Right.
of the concept, working with the likes of IRD on Te Rapa Strait. There's a lot of businesses all along there that we'll do specific work with as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
We could have you on crutches sort of hitching to the hospital.
If I have to, I'll do it for the cause.
Sorry, Paula.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Andrew. Just out of interest, the Comet route was done because the data showed that that's where the people were taking the journeys. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was it?
In part, yeah, absolutely. So the beauty of the Comet route is it connects a lot of significant activity centres. So you think of the base
So
in
this
the north.
replaces the Te Rapa direct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
rebrands and replaces it.
Yeah, so it combines the Glenview and Mahaui service. It combines a bit of resource that currently exists in the Northern Connector service
Yep.
and amalgamates it into one route. For example, if you lived in the Glenview Mahaui area, you could travel right through to the base without having to transfer. But there's lots of different iterations of trips that become much easier with a service like this as
Okay.
well.
Cool.
The other thing, Paula, that it's done is the hospital was going to put on their own hospital to CBD shuttle because of the new building about to open here, and they're no longer doing that. They're encouraging the use of this.
Cool. Two further questions. Earlier on today, we had an item around the parking in town, and where we're heading with that. We've all approved a further extension to the trial. So the question I raised then, which is pertinent to buses, is where are we going? What progress is being made around park and ride, or that kind of thing for commuters? What sort of conversation is the regional council? I know this has been going on for ages, as long as I was there as well. So, what's happening in that space?
Yeah, look, my understanding is the mass transit plan will pick up a strategy around park and ride facilities as part of a much broader piece of work. But look, our advice and from a public transport perspective, I think has always been fairly consistent. So we're probably of the strong view that park and ride facilities within urban areas, you've got to think really carefully about that, but park and rides on the fringes, further out into the sort of semi-rural areas make a lot of sense. Yeah.
And I'm interested in the transport of commuters into the CBD, and then where they park and ride in that context. Like if you park on the exterior of the CBD and then you catch the shuttle for a buck, is that how it goes?
Yeah, I think the CBD fare zone unlocks that possibility, but I think it's something that needs to be carefully thought through with the City Council. A lot of unintended implications could become of that. So I think.
If I can add to that, Councillor Southgate, what the parking management plan in terms of this whole of city approach and the dedicated precincts, we're working with Regional Council really closely on with the mass transit plan, so that we are actually looking into those, because we're not wanting to create another issue in another area, because we're encouraging bus fares and therefore we get parking issues because of that. And so the parking management plan is going to have a whole of city view and actually really integrate public transport and work with Regional Council on that.
That's good, thank you. And last question, the university went to paid parking, for example, and I know that we started conversations with the university about 3 years ago, and you must have progressed these around direct routes from the university to town and cleaning up the interchange, the slow down point within the campus and all that kind of thing. And I think I've had conversations with Vice-Chancellor around that as well. So where's that going in terms of Hillcrest and the bus routes and university?
Yeah, I'm aware the university, and I think they've been talking with City Council staff as well, have their master planning process underway, and they've certainly been talking to us about options for hubs. In the updated regional public transport plan, we've identified a major hub as being necessary in that location. But whether it's specifically at the university in terms of a major hub or closer to the Ruakura development as well is something I think we need to work through as part of the mass transit plan. There's another question the mass transit plan will need to answer, but it's certainly well linked in with the university in terms of their thinking and being able to dovetail it into the mass transit plan.
Did you see a pickup of people getting on the buses when the paid parking came in, just out of interest?
Yeah, so a couple of dimensions to that. There certainly was and continues to be quite strong growth in university-related public transport, so patronage. The university probably hasn't seen a reduction in pressure on paid parking to the extent that they probably would have hoped. But when we look into it, it kind of makes sense. So if you look at the fare concession initiative, in addition to the paid parking, I think the net result is that they've increased their capacity to get people to and from the site, but they've probably released a bit of pressure on parking that's been quickly filled by demand that was sort of suppressed in the first place. So they've seen their parking rates remain about the same, but the patronage on buses has certainly increased and continues to grow as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. There's no other questions, so I'll move the receipt of the Regional Council's report, seconded by Mark. Those in favour, against, carried. Thanks very much. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. And councillors, one thing I was thinking about that is we should advise councillors when the Regional Passenger Transport Committee meetings are on, because it may be times that councillors want to go along there. So we'll just, we'll get the notices and arrange to send it out to people and they can put it in their diary if they want. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, back to the GM's report. So we're on to Eva Lisa's one, which is progress update on policy and bylaw reviews, which will be about 278 or 9 or something. Page number, that is. I'll just give us a sec to 279. Yep.
Sorry.
Oh,
I'm
are
happy
you
to
doing
take
that?
questions. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, any questions on that? Stick up your hand, excuse me. All right, we're on to Access Hamilton Task Force update, which is really on the following page, top of the following page. Any questions on that? Councillors are all, I believe, getting their notices about the meetings. Yep. Okay, if there's no questions on that, that's good. Parking, we're basically done. Parking management plan, questions on that? Nope. This is going swimmingly. E-bike update. Just saw a thing come through from Auckland Council about 20 minutes ago to say they've extended it for 7 or 8 months, the current trial. Any questions on that? No. Vision Zero, well, we've done that, eh? Yeah, there's nothing extra there. The unfortunate situation. It was a sole, that accident, Robin, just no other vehicle involved. Loss of control. Okay. Regional Transport Committee meeting update. Anything on that? No. I'm trying to get you work, Eva Lisa. It's not
You're
happening.
doing a great job chairing.
Okay, TFAR, the Targeted Enhanced Financial Assistance Rate. Any questions on that? I've made comments. Chris is all prepared to defend NZ. Oh, no, I mean to. No questions?
Yep.
Sorry, did you have one? Oh, Mark, sorry, I wasn't looking at my sheet.
Just a very quick one, understanding the new environment they're trying to paint for us, but point 44, low-cost, low-risk improvements and the citywide cycle network connectivity projects, I notice that requires more consideration. Is that a brought forward or a pushed back? What does that mean in Bureau speak?
Basically what that is that NZTA want more detail on the specifics of the projects that will be delivered underneath those programs.
Right.
And will then consider each on their merits. So rather than the whole program being approved or being marked as being eligible,
Yep.
they are reserving judgment until they see each individual, and each project under those programs will have to stand on its own merits.
Have they got enough people to handle all that? It sort of requires
That,
more
I guess,
work.
is part of our concern.
Yeah.
Didn't, in fact, they sit in on all the Access Hamilton meetings where that program first came up, all those programs?
Can I just put a flavour on this? Like, my understanding is we're doing really well through Robin's team in delivering our low-cost, low-risk program at Normal Far. This is about getting extra financial assistance. So Robin's well on target to deliver the program that we had anticipated. But I think it leads into the letter that's attached, you know, on page 289 from the Transport Agency. So I guess that's a signal of sort of funding issues that we're about to move into. It's one of the interesting parts of that letter is that if we win TFAR in that low-cost, low-risk program, we've got to fit it in within the existing program allocation we've got. So that's a serious concern to us because it really means that we don't have the ability to do more. You just fit it inside the program. So that was an interesting
So
development.
our own jobs could be cannibalising other jobs from the council?
Essentially, yeah. So, to me, it seems, I'm not sure of the benefit of getting enhanced FAR when we've got to fit it in within our existing program. But look, it's a developing situation with NZTA. They've been quite late coming to the table with this, but it's good that they are sending out signals now about the funding issues because we can work with them now and understand that. So there's lots of meetings and activity going on for us to try and understand that a little bit better.
Okay, thank you. And last time we were talking about the stress of putting on staff. Like in other words, we've got the money, we've got the willpower, but we haven't got enough people. How are you going with that?
Yeah, look, Eva Lease will probably want to add to this, but look, it is challenging. We're doing a lot of really good stuff across council, doing a lot of really good stuff in the transport space. When we look back in our rear view mirror, we're actually making really good progress. Sometimes to councillors it might not seem like that, but we are. And I think just concentrating on the things that we've got in front of us and doing them well would be a good focus for us to have.
And totally just adding to that, agreeing with Chris, there is a lot of work happening by staff and lots of, and I guess with the passion that they have for the areas that they work in transport, and it's about sometimes there may be, staff may come back to elected members and say, could we delay this because we can't meet the timeframes that we originally set. It's not because of lack of trying, it's potentially because of not being able to fit everything in because it is moving so quickly. Right. And we want to do a good job and we want to make sure we do the right things and the right things for Hamilton. So,
okay, so I guess what I'm trying to find out is though, are you advertising you need people and you can't find them, or are you at your maximum staff allocation or what?
Some of our technical key specialist areas we're struggling to fill, particularly in the asset management space, and I think that that's a regional and a national problem too. And so we're just trying to find new innovative ways and working with our consultants and partners to achieve what we need to achieve. So there are, in the real key specialist areas, a real skill shortage.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Jeff, please.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Yeah, my question is in regards to the NZTA letter, the very concerning letter, and which is referenced in the Chair's report. And I'm just concerned, and my question, I suppose, is, you know, we've entered into a contract with NZTA here in good faith, and it feels as though there's a possibility we could have the rug pulled from under us. And I guess my question is how, you know, how do you propose, or how are we responding to this letter? What representations are we making? And I suppose I'm asking out loud, you know, should we, at a political level, be making a very, very loud and vociferous response to it? Because it's a real worry.
So if I can just put a little bit of context to the situation. Look, at this point in time, the city is in really good shape with our local NZTA relationships and the funding we're getting. So you would have seen in the media the other day about Tauranga has suspended all of their capital projects because of the funding issues and decision making. So that's not us. We're not in that case at this point in time. Like at this point in time, we're benefiting from a very strong sort of partnership approach we've had with NZTA and the Southern Links and the Peacocks area, you know, led by the evergreen Barry Dowsett, and just the work that he's been doing with us. So look, we've got $110 million plus funding for NZTA to do that project. So, you know, our construction is not sort of stalled with the issues. We're also building the Waiari Cobham Drive. So all of that funding's approved at a really good subsidy rate. We're about to open the Gordonton-Thomas Road, and councillors recall we're probably the first in the country to get enhanced phar, and probably the only project that I'm aware of at the moment, apart from the pre-implementation of the passenger rail. So my point is that at this point in time, I think our concerns are looking forward and the pipeline of projects that we want to do, and probably from next year. So our concerns...
Next year being from the 1st of July this year.
Yeah, pretty, not far away. So look, so we do need to voice our concerns about a number of things, I think, and they are to be supportive of NZTA resourcing, like the regional office, and the chair knows this, work really hard, but it's some organisational issues, I think, about local leadership, local decision making and resourcing. So that's where, in my view, our advocacy should go. Also, the whole process of decision making and some of the other commentary you'll see in the media is about business cases and efficiency of decision making. So we've certainly been saying that for some time, and we would like that to improve. There are things happening, like I'm personally a part of a national safety group, and one of the focuses is working with them to be more efficient in decisions around safety. Also got invited last year about the whole business case process. So, you know, some of the advocacy that we're promoting at the moment on behalf of this council is why does one size fit all? Why do we always need to have a business case for some pretty routine decisions? And like, I think we're at a point in time, I suspect or hope that NZTA are listening to that, and we'll see some improvement in that area.
Are you holding your breath?
Look, I see good signs of that happening. I think it's interesting that more than one council now is sending the same message. So I'm very optimistic that NZTA will listen to that and make some improvements.
One of our big projects in the LTP, the school link, it's under threat, isn't it? Of even any approval, let alone the TFAR.
Yeah. So that's probably the one project where we had programmed to do some physical works this year, and we won't. I'd have to be honest and say that was probably a bit of optimistic programming from us. We're working through the business case. We're working through it really well, but the whole process is quite slow and cumbersome. But that is actually a project where I personally support a good business case. So we're very joined up together with all of our partners in the community of what we build there. But that is progressing. Like Robin has got a fantastic staff member that's leading our engagement with NZTA on it. We've got some really good regional relationships, which is starting to cut through some of this stuff, which maybe we're not seeing around the country. So.
But aren't we losing some regional staff as well as national staff that we've built relationships with?
That is a real problem. So, you know, we've lost a lot of sort of key contact people. So Parakawhia McLean was a big loss for us in the region, but that's just been filled by a new person. So we're really optimistic about that relationship.
We're inviting that new person to the next meeting.
Yep. So, and that'll be a good opportunity to keep him at a high level about the funding issues and where we're going. And I think we all want just clarity so we can work to it. So I read the headline in the from out of Auckland the other day, which was about the opaque situation. So that was quite a good description of, or a cry just to give us some clarity, no matter what the issue is, give us some clarity so we can work to that.
Dave, I was just I mean, it's on number 41 on page 283. There's a list of projects there. Are these projects ones that we could run into trouble with, potentially?
Yeah, so look...
Because they're all significant.
Yep. So it's probably important to understand the normal process for projects. It's always been a two-stage process where we put up projects, but we never know whether we're even going to get normal subsidy till we get to the point of time of implementing the project. So that's always been a problem and a difficulty for us in local government. So nothing's changed there. So what paragraph 41 is saying is that we've got through the first hurdle with NZTA, which is good. They're saying all of these projects meet the criteria for enhanced funding if there's funding available. But we never know until we get to the point that we need the funding and we make an application whether the funding is there and available.
Doesn't that make planning at our level pretty near impossible if you don't know whether NZTA, even if it clearly qualifies, whether they're going to have the money or going to want to give it to you?
Yes, it does, and that's always been the situation. Yeah, so...
Yeah, I guess that's why I asked the question, because it just feels to me the signal we're getting is a very negative one in that letter. And we've got these great projects as programmed in, and we're getting a very negative warning there, it seems to me. And I'm just wondering, you're doing a hell of a lot there in terms of your conversations with NZTA, but do we need to be doing more as a council from the Mayor's office? I feel my feeling is we need to be probably targeting government ministers on this as well.
Put it this way, Jeff, both Tauranga City Council and Auckland City Council in the last 2 weeks have sent formal letters from pretty high, sort of senior positions, Auckland Transport and the Tauranga City Council, to the government about this subject, these problems that are being discussed now. We haven't yet.
We haven't yet, but look, I'm in the process of just writing a letter just about some emerging issues on the Waikato Expressway, so it's probably a good opportunity to add some general concerns to that. So if councillors were of a mind, we could take a resolution to work with the Mayor and Chair of Infrastructure, Growth and Infrastructure, to write to NZTA. So I think that would be appropriate, and I think it's important that it's clear to them what our concerns are as well.
I would be really supportive.
Okay, well, when we come to the report, we'll put that, we'll work out some wording roughly, if you could do that, Chris, before we come to the final wrap-up motion. Sorry, Rob, did you, you're next.
Follow-on questions from that. I assume, Chris, that when we budget in the 10-year plan, and generally when you come to us with reports, you generally give us the gross cost of any particular project on the basis that there's an expectation we might get 51 or 75% funding, depending on which slot it fits into. So am I right in that our 10-year plan is based on fully funding the projects ourselves?
Yep, so our 10-year plan is the costs you generally see will be gross costs, but sitting in behind that will be assumptions made on revenue. So for selected projects, we will have a assumption there of 51% subsidy. So we haven't made any presumption about any enhanced financial assistance rates over the normal one. So any enhanced subsidy we get is a bonus for us or an opportunity. Yep. My concern is, our concern is just receiving the normal subsidy when funding is getting tight. So there may be some projects where we don't get the normal subsidy, which is built into our 10-year plan as an assumption. Yep. So look, we're very aware of that as a risk, and I think it was a clearly identified risk through developing the 10-year plan. We're on top of that issue. We're doing some modelling through the corporate team, finance team, David, to just, as we come up to Finance Committee about the risks of that. You'll see a bit of commentary in the capital report at the next finance meeting about that as well. Yep. So we're acutely aware of that and the impact of not getting revenue across all of our business, but NZTA in particular.
But the 238 million that we had in our 10-year plan for transport, that was the gross amount, wasn't it? The gross amount of expected costs for the transport budget, even before the 51%.
Yep. So
except our borrowing may have been based on the fact that we might have expected that we might only be borrowing 51%. 49% on some of the projects, but the costs were actually based on the full cost of each project.
Yeah, look, I'm assuming that you're referring to the Transport Improvement Program
Yep.
Rather than our Peacocks or some of our
Oh, yeah,
large
yeah,
growth
no,
projects.
it is
Yep.
a transport
So,
program, yeah.
so that was largely on the assumption of 51% subsidy. At this point in time, we're probably way ahead of the game in that we're receiving unbudgeted revenue for footpaths, which is quite substantial. And at this stage, the Rotokauri passenger transport facility is looking like enjoying high levels of subsidy way ahead of what we had assumed. So at this point in time, we're probably ahead of the game, but it's a constant thing we've got to keep looking at. And
So-
look, we're still confident and optimistic that our projects are good and that we'll win subsidy, and rest assured we will be working towards that goal.
So on reflection, do you think it's a little bit premature for us to, if you like, I won't use the word dig the knife, but perhaps get on to NZTA's case when the two surrounding councils within this growth triangle have already done that, and that we might find that the benefits that we're currently enjoying might not be available to us if we are premature in indicating to NZTA that we're concerned about not being able to get what we don't think we'll be able to get, but we're happy with what we're getting now?
Look, I think it's appropriate to reflect our concerns about what's coming, but look, all NZTA are doing is describing the funding picture that's emerging. The reason for that is because they're spending a lot of money in all those activity areas, so they're spending the money. One of the things in the letter you'll see is that of the local government improvement program, they decided to increase the low-cost, low-risk program for every single territorial authority in the country. And that's quite a valuable source of funding for local authority because there's the decision-making process around the projects is a lot less, and you've got a lot of things you can do for your community for projects under $1 million. So the cumulative effect of that is to take a large chunk of the local government project, which is now causing some of the problem. So the money has been spent wisely, probably on safety up and down the country. So all they're doing is reflecting the emerging funding situation, and it's good that they're coming to us with the situation. We just want clarity around that, and so we can manage.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, and look, I've done the wording of a resolution. Chris was too busy talking. Just read it out to, which I think sort of partially covers off the points you were making as well, Rob. That management work with the Mayor to draft and send a letter to the NZTA Chair outlining our concerns regarding funding of Hamilton Transport projects going forward. If they're going forward there, to make it clear it's not the current situation. Is that, that's what I'll put it for discussion. We can amend that a bit if we want to, but I want to get something.
Could you reference back perhaps to the concerns that have been expressed by Tauranga and
I guess I didn't think we needed to belabour the point because they've been in the media, both of them. Yeah, so that'll come up when we just do the receive motion. There's no other questions on that part. We're on to the Waste Task Force update now. So do we have any questions on that section of the report? And there's several subsections in there on pages 284 to 285. If not, we'll move on to the Project Watershed Annual Plan. Questions on that? Did you have one, Paula?
Just all the one, we did have that request to invite them. They did come about the alligator weed, that was quite quickly done, but we really still do need the catchment committee to come and explain to council as a whole how they prioritise their work, how they fund their work, so that we can be more usefully engaged in influencing that. Yep. Having said that, I'm fairly confident that our staff have done a great job of promoting the main priorities in the city. So I'm not feeling uncomfortable, but it's one of those committees that I attend, and Mayor Andrew attended for the first time this week, the other day. But it's something that probably flies below the radar for anyone else. So since that we all do have a great passion for our riverside and erosion issues and our gullies and our streams, I think we need to progress that action that we put up once before, which is we invite the chair and key staff from Project Watershed to come and talk with us as a council.
Should we do that on an annual basis, do you think, ahead of their own planning?
Definitely that would be ideal, but we've been trying to achieve that, just an initial sort of, well, this is how it works, this is what we discussed, these are the key issues, this is what our staff is working on. I think we need to get that done first, and then we need to create a working opportunity, because otherwise I'm left representing council without, well, I do have good staff backup, I'm not saying I do, but
Can
without
staff
political backup.
get something like that started? Yeah.
So if I can through the chair, what we could propose is in August, we're proposing to bring the work program to the Growth and Infrastructure Committee. Therefore, we could bring and offer an opportunity to have the chair, or is it, or is it an elected member briefing that would be a better opportunity?
I think
Why
the first instance.
Why don't you and the mayor get together with Eva Lisa and
Well,
work out?
we did resolve to have a briefing on this. And I suppose I want to get, before we get to that point, I want to get people to understand how this functions. Not the specifics of the plan, which you're right, come up
But
in
isn't that
August.
what the briefing is going to cover? Or?
Well, we just haven't had it, so that's why I'm asking, where is the briefing that
Okay.
we were going to have? Because we agreed to that late last year.
We did.
And I'm the only person who attends. I've got good support for staff, but political mandate is very light.
So can I suggest that we put that onto the briefing agenda prior to the August report coming?
I'd say that'd be a good idea.
And you'll
I mean,
look
people are
after that.
welcome to
And I will-
attend, but,
Yes.
and that's another good way of learning, is to come and attend. There's a lot of good topics on there. But outside of that, I
Yeah,
think we
we'll
should
put it
bring
down as an action point that that's going to happen.
It was an action
which
point
then
once
gets,
before.
well, it's going to go down again, and Becca's going to be
apologies for
very
that.
fierce if they
No,
don't do
that's
it.
fine, that's fine.
Okay,
as it happens.
thanks. The Gordonton Road corridor, questions on that? We have had, where did we, oh no, it was actually Hamilton, we had an update on that, the last meeting. Any questions on that? Anyone? People pretty much know what's happening. Turning on of the lights in a couple of weeks, from memory. Chris?
Hopefully by the end of next week, subject to weather, so we're very close.
Well, don't the lights work when it's raining?
So a couple of, just one thing, it will be a graduated opening that Robin's overseeing. So we just don't bang open it up. So I think there'll be lights working, traffic management still in place, monitoring, and over a period of time remove the traffic management. So it's quite a orchestrated process that Robin is overseeing, just to make sure we're safe and the drivers get used to what we've put out there.
Okay. All good. Okay, we'll go back to the resolution that, I'm just flicking back to the start of that. We've got 2A, B, C, and now D. D is, can we flick D up on the, yeah, there it is. That's it. And I'll move it. So I'll just get a second. Jeff? Yep. Sorry, James. Yeah.
Just a question. The Keep New Zealand Beautiful, sorry I missed that. We talked about becoming a member,
Where was that? What number's that?
56 to 58. I'm very supportive of becoming a member for all the reasons we discussed prior. Is that just something that's got like delegated authority? Someone will just join that as to that, or is that something that needs a recommendation from council to formalise? It's only $1,750 a year.
I'm not sure how those things happen, because it doesn't seem to be a strategic governance sort of decision. But Becca?
Well, it was our decision to
No,
not
it's a
be
good
a
question.
member.
How does that normally get decided? Does anyone know? How do we, that we join them or not? Keep Hamilton, New Zealand beautiful?
It can be just signed off by staff if we're agreed
Okay.
within your delegated authority.
So the task force has recommended to management that they sort that.
That's how it will happen.
So that might be another action point. Just, yeah.
Thank you.
Then you'll get Becca and Amy on your back if you don't do it. Yeah. Okay, good spotting. All right, back to the resolution up on the wall there. Sorry, Jeff, did you want to speak to that?
Just briefly, if I
Yep,
may.
sure.
Yeah, look, I support the motion, and in particular D there. I am concerned about this, and I think we probably all should be. Traffic congestion, safety, and this issue is in the city is a big issue, and not a day goes by where I don't have a conversation with someone about congestion or that sort of stuff. And I've been proud of the way our council's been reacting to that and in the contents of our LTP. I was also impressed with the government at the start of the term in terms of its priorities of safety and public transport and cycling and pedestrian. And I was sort of really pleased to see we seem to be working together. We seem to be on the same page. And it just feels that in good faith we've entered into an agreement, and the letters like this make me really worried, because it feels like potentially they're going to change the rules halfway through the game, and we're not going to get some of the money that we should be getting. And we've based our LTP, our projects on our LTP on it. And potentially we could lose some good projects there. And so what I want to see is let's not wait for more bad news. Let's get in and proactively make our case now. And at some point, I think we might need to stress to government ministers or our MPs that if NZTA has run out of money, it could potentially put some of the government's credibility on the line as well. So I don't want to see them back down and for us not to get the money that we need to get things done, because this city badly needs these projects to go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. Look, I want to jump in here to speak to, I know you're on the list, Mark. I think that last point really that Jeff's made is quite important as far as I'm concerned. The credibility of the government's transport strategy is on the line, because they're unable, through their agency NZTA, to fully deliver on the things that councils have around the country, not just ours, have jumped up and said, we'll go for that, we'll make our roads safer, we'll put on more buses, we'll put on cycleways. And whether it's that the money's not there, or the system within NZTA is not there, or the personnel within NZTA are not there, it's not happening at the moment. We got in early with some approvals and managed to get a few wins. If we'd been 6 months later, we wouldn't have had those wins, and we'd be the same as Tauranga or Auckland Transport, I feel. We were lucky. Even ones like the train, which the government explicitly said they would support. A huge number of iterations of business cases and approvals and regurgitating of things has taken place, and some of that's spilled over in the media. By and large, we've kept it going, but it's delayed. Just that on a project they strongly support has delayed things by nearly a year from the original thing. So I think the government needs to become aware that its own credibility is at stake, just like with the Kiwi Build housing situation. You can have the best will in the world and the best policies, but if you've not got a means of delivering them, then it's going to rebound on you. And we're trying to help the government, and we'd help any government doing those sorts of things, but we can't help it if their own agencies are building walls. Yeah, so that's my thoughts, Mark.
Yeah, very much along the same line. I'm pretty annoyed, to be honest, because we got the big carrot waved in front of us when the government changed, and safety is what we get preached at and told about it at conferences all over the place. Yep, we're right into safety. We're moving away from expressways. We're moving into safety, etc., etc. Oh, but we don't have the money that we said we had. Come on, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. And to me, it's bollocks, really. I personally am, I look at these NPPs on page 282. The first one is safety on local roads. Safety on local roads. And I'm really personally quite upset about point 44, because you know, when I walked into the job as chair of Access Hamilton, all these other ones were already there, and I thought, well, right, let's try and get these cycle improvements and the CBD connectivity brought forward from year 8. But I was assured, no, we don't need to do that. It's business as usual. It's all good. And now I see it's just getting kicked further out to touch. And so I'm sort of signaling to staff I'm going to become a jolly more painful in your side because I want that back on the list, and I want it on now. And I shall be in there every day annoying you for this. But I appreciate the work you are doing on my behalf, and I know that most of you want this sort of stuff as well. So I know what you're up against. So I'll be your biggest ally and your biggest pain. Look, as chair of the Access Hamilton, the safe and efficient transport and travel of Hamiltonians is my #1 priority, and it will be for the rest of this council term. It will be through the election, and if the community deems willing, it will be my #1 priority in the next term too. Like you, I flinch when a resident grumbles about a decision we've made or I've supported. It's a wee bit stingy, we all get that. But nothing compares to the pain that we should feel when we hear that someone's been hurt or has died on our roads. And I take that deeply personally, and so we should. Safer journeys, safer roads. It's what we've got to be doing. So, yeah, let's just push back. Let's not be afraid. Let's just push back.
Thank you. There's no other speakers, so I'll put the resolution to a show of hands. Those in favour, raise their hand. Against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to the close of this part of the meeting, and I'll move the wording of those resolutions, which I can't find, but I'm sure you all know. You've heard them half a dozen times before. Hang on, I have found them. Because there's good reason to withhold information under Section 7 of the Local Government Act. That's why we're doing it, because there's good reason. I'll move that. Seconded by Jeff. Those in favour, it's carried. Okay. All the visitors have to take off. I'm sorry.